Hello! It's not the Terminator, it's me, Gordon, aka El Gordo. I'm a massive Terminator fan. If you didn't realise, 2021, this year, is actually the 30th anniversary of Terminator 2. I was a big fan of the movie when I was a kid as well. I was too young when it came out to go and see it. I was only 12 years old when it was released, so I had to rely on getting the Marvel Comics adaptation. It was drawn by the classic artist Klaus Janson, and when I got the chance to meet him at a comic convention about 5 years ago, these are the issues that I chose to go along and get signed by him. And so about 10 years ago, I started doodling for fun, just a picture of a Terminator. It was before any of the more recent Terminator movies had come out that had shown the sort of older Arnie playing the part. But I drew a picture, sort of exploring what that might look like. I called it The Last Terminator. And so as I was drawing out this picture, I started to imagine what scenarios this character would lend himself to, and it seemed to me that he really represented the end of the era of the machines, that this character would appear towards the closing stages of the war with Skynet. And so I then imagined what other characters they would interact with. In the end of the war, we would see human resistance soldiers that were so depleted in terms of resources that they'd be running around in anything they could scavenge, from trench coats and tin helmets to whatever plasma rifles they could gather. I created a couple of resistance fighters from a sergeant who took inspiration from Michelle Rodriguez, and a sniper character who I based upon Karen Gillan, who was a Doctor Who assistant at the time. But really, I was most interested in the character of the Terminator. I figured that very early on in the story, the readers would learn that Skynet had based this T-800 on an actual human and taken a genetic template from that person. This Terminator and the humans would then face against a very physical and credible sci-fi horror threat, and throughout the battles and action sequences throughout the story, the Terminator would take horrific damage, progressively worse, but in doing so you would also see the human characteristics from that previous persona start to shine through. Effectively a ghost in the machine would start to appear, until by the end the T-800, the heroic T-800, would look monstrous, and yet would have reclaimed this sort of human hero persona just in time to lead into a massive epic finale. I wound up working on the project for about a year. I produced 16 pages of artwork. I mapped out a whole storyline loosely in plot beats. In honour of the cinematic origins of the characters, the artwork I did produce was in a sort of widescreen landscape format. I cut the plotting of the pace of the plot to be very punchy, like a cinema trailer. And even the working title that I created the project under was Redband, in honour of the colour coding of the violent and sort of sweary trailers that American cinema had. Eventually it got to the point where I was just about to crunch gears into a massive hardcore slobber knocker action sequence, but I did realise that not actually owning any of the characters or any of the rights, I was never going to be able to publish any paper copies or make any money from this, or sell it at a convention. So at that point I did make the decision to park the project and move on to new things. As it happens, the next project I did move on to carried on the widescreen movie trailer concept. Hot shit. And the legacy of the story and the experience did sort of live on. In fact, this website that I'm now posting comics on very much is a platform that allows me to basically be free of the need to publish on paper and to not be relying on Facebook or Instagram or other platforms that I'm not really sure I understand the copyright or the permissions of posting onto. Anyway, as I mentioned, I did sort of loosely plot out a whole story. If you think this sounds fun, then please do read the comic that I produced. And if you would like to know what happens next, then well, tell your friends and then tell me. If I get enough positive feedback, then I can't rule out the possibility of jumping back into this project and doing bits and pieces more as we go along. Anyway, all that's left for me to say is have fun, take it easy, and hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back.